Welcome and thank you for joining us for the Factor Uncensored tonight. First up, our focus turned to Black conservatives who support President Trump. This is an issue that's ripped from the pages of Nation.com, an article there. Some have accused President Trump of racism on multiple occasions. Last year, he said Black voters are drawn to him because of his criminal indictments and mugshot.
In this video, family, we'll examine if Black conservatives are turning a blind eye and ear to racism, or is this all made up? And how do we come to a point where we understand that not everything is racist, but racism does exist? Allow us to continue.
A statement some have called racist, while Black conservative supporters not speaking out, according to critics, is an issue. Is there any truth to Black conservatives being at peace with this so-called racism? Or is this the answer more complex? Joining us to talk about it here on The Factor Uncensored tonight, members of...
Before we jump into that panel, allow me to break this down real quick. Again, there's a difference between being racist and practicing racism. Racism is an actual practice that those who have the ability to suppress and oppress any individual, no matter what the color is, if it's a Black person oppressing the white people, it cannot be done in this society because Black people don't own anything. And this is not justifying that they may be racist, but they cannot practice racism, not to the degree where it's really going to impact any white person's life. Again, this doesn't justify and say that Black people are not racist and are not hating on white people. But what you understand when it comes to the term racist is an individual that hates another individual because of the color of their skin. When you're talking about racism, that same individual or group of individuals have to have the ability to deny individuals the chance to advance their well-being in a society. And to be frank with you, Black people don't own anything that any other ethnic group is dependent on them to survive that they can't get from elsewhere. It's just simple as that. We own nothing. And again, this doesn't justify if you're racist and Black. It just says that being racist and Black and being able to practice racism is something totally different. But let's get back to the topic and let's break down what's going on. And by the way, I voted for Trump. All right. So let's get that out the way.
The Urban Conservatives of America, Rael Williams, Alexandra Butler, the group's founder, Jonathan McCullough, and former president of NAACP, Brazoria County, Eugene Howard, who's not a member of the group, and you'll soon see. But let's begin with you guys. For those who say there's a lot of racism that you have to stomach as a Black conservative supporting President Trump, what would you say to that?
Personally, I would say that I've ignored a lot of racism from the left. When Joe Biden said that Black people, or excuse me, he said poor people are just as bright and talented as white people, that's a racist comment. There's types of racism that seem to go ignored and unnoticed by the left and the right, but it's the racism of low expectations that I can't ignore. And so that's why I brought that up first, is because the racism that they want us to overlook is the racism coming from the left.
All right.
She made a powerful statement saying that the racism of low expectation, and this is what the left pushes. They pushes a agenda of low expectations, trying to again equal the playing field by forcing individuals to have equal outcomes. No individual is deserving of equal outcome. All individuals are deserving of equal opportunity to make things happen. And of course, that's not the case across the board, but trying to level the field by putting in a policy or policies that say that if I work 40, 50, 60, 90 hours a week, you work 20 hours a week, we deserve the same outcome. No, that is ridiculous, and that should always be rejected by any self-worthy individual. Any individual that has a self-worth that is ingrained in that individual being able to maximize his talents would never accept the idea of equal outcome, no matter what the work and the input that has been put in. And she made a very clear statement. Again, the left uses blacks in a way that is racist because they are keeping many of the blacks stuck in this victimhood mentality, saying that you can't make it because the system is keeping you back, while never addressing the true elephant in the room. And the true thing that is keeping most blacks back in 2025 is the behavior, it's the culture that we've accepted and embraced and glorified. It is the lack of discipline. It is not willing to sacrifice to bring about the changes that are necessary to get you up and moving in the upward direction within this society. This doesn't eliminate the fact that, yes, to a small degree, racism still exists, very small, and you can call that on both sides of the equation, but allow them to continue.
Let's go down the line, sir, Mr. McCullough.
Yes. Well, racism to me, it's not what someone says, it's what they do. And I think this is what makes us different from the left, because we're not watching, what people is saying. We're watching what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, a leader, a president, a politician, whatever you are, is based on policy. So if you can show me policy that affects or that you can call racism, then I'll agree. But up to this point, I have yet to see anything that he's put into law that affects Black people negatively.
Eyes wide shut.
He made a clear and concise statement, something that I've said many times before. Bring forth for me, especially in his first term, any policy that he implemented that directly and intentionally impacted Black people to the degree where they couldn't get a livelihood, where it was set in place to keep Blacks from being able to rise up and to specifically target Blacks in a negative way. But yet he did, and I have some issue with him this term because he's genuflecting to Israel, and he made a very wild statement about too many holidays. And again, I don't celebrate them like that anyway. But if he's talking about that Juneteenth, why don't you eliminate Columbus Day then? If you're going tit for tat, eliminate all those non-essential holidays, if that's the case. So I have an issue with what he said on that. I'm talking about President Trump. And then again, I voted for him. But what this man has said is true. If you show me policies that directly impact Blacks in a negative way in targeting solely Blacks and not targeting certain types of things such as Medicaid that affect everybody, then you can't come to me and say that an individual is racist or practicing racism. An individual may be racist, but if he's not or she's not practicing racism, they cannot affect your upward mobility in a society. So this is what you must look at. You must come to understand this, that again, if the policies that are not in place or that are put in place by a particular president and they don't directly impact, in this case, Donald Trump, they don't directly negatively impact Black people, specifically for the cause of negatively impacting Black people, you cannot call the man racist in the sense that he's practicing racism. The opposite of that is this. Matter of fact, in his first term, he gave $250 million, I think, annually to the Black colleges so that they wouldn't have to keep coming up and trying to get refunded every year. What racist man does that? Then he put in with the First Step Act to help nonviolent criminals who are serving extremely long sentences get their sentences reduced and come home. And a lot of those individuals were Black. So if he does that, and then he again pardoned Allison Johnson, who were serving life sentence for nonviolent drug offenses that she didn't even involve herself in the drug. She made the connection, and she was doing life and had done about 20 years, maybe I think 15 to 20 years. Came before Barack Obama, knew the case, knew that she was a mother who were nonviolent, who had no priors, who just set up the drug deal, was no violence in that drug deal. No one got killed, no one got murdered, and yet she was serving a life sentence. And Obama, she came before him, her case came before him 2 times, he did nothing. And this is your so-called Black president, for those of you who are on the left and claim that Obama it's the second coming of, and again, I'm not religious, of Jesus, etc. All right. So again, he made a clear and concise point. Allow us to listen to this next individual.
All right. Mr. Williams, Ultra MAGA. What you got?
Ultra MAGA. Trump has been great for Black people. If you look at the statistics, Black unemployment was at the highest rates when he was in office. You go down and you look at, he just declassified the MLK files, something Barack Obama didn't do when he was in office.
Of course not.
So I mean, you people are saying he's racist, but he's doing things that presidents that were of color didn't even do.
That's right.
I mean, hold on, wait, let me finish.
It's only been one, don't say it.
So again, Trump is the man. I support him hands down because what he's done for Black people is literally like you can't compare it to anything.
Right. And before we get to Eugene, let me ask you this question, the crux of that interview, that article. Do you see racism in the conservative movement that you're a part of? Obviously, you've already said you see it everywhere, but do you see it in the organization? Either of you?
Well, here's the thing. How are we defining racism? Once again, I mean, if we're going to define racism and get...
Okay, really, you know what racism is. So just tell me if you have seen it, if you experienced.
I know what racism is, but I can't speak for everybody else.
Well, let me say something.
Go ahead.
Okay, so when somebody on the left sees me, a Black woman, and just assumes I'm poor or ignorant, or they're like, "Oh my goodness, you speak so well," they're so shocked about that. Why are they shocked about it? That is racism. I overlook that a lot because I'm saying they don't know any better. That happens to me a lot from people on the left. They think that they're my ally. I need their hand. I need them to come in and save me. And I don't. I need God. I don't need them. They're not my Messiah or my savior. So Malcolm X said it best. You know, the liberal is the enemy of the Black man. And we can see it right clearly before our eyes. They look at us like we're scum. They look at us like we're poor. And Black people are falling for the okie doke. And they're saying, oh, the white man is better than us. He's supreme over us. That's what white supremacy is. Right. I don't believe anybody is superior over me. I don't live my life that way. So I just live according to freedom and liberty.
All right, let's hear from Eugene.
She made some points that I agree with. She also made some points that I would challenge to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, again, when you automatically assume an individual just because the color of their skin is aligned with a political party, then I'm not saying that is racism, but that is automatically a racist type of placement. Because I'm Black, I'm automatically Democrat, and I should be Democrat. How is that not a racist view of me? You understand what I'm saying? Again, I don't think she's correct on racism. Racism is the ability to stop an individual because of their specific race or ethnicity from being able to advance in a society. You understand what I'm saying? And putting in roadblocks and doing discriminatory things towards that specific individual because of their specific race and or ethnicity. Now, I got to let this Democrat dude come in. He's ridiculous because I've seen him before, but we have to hear him out, all right? Emotional and ridiculous. Let's hear him out.
Please, man, I've been in this twilight zone. Like, I've been patiently over here at the tail dog position. So first of all, if you can't see the racism, your eyes are just closed. You said it's not about what people say about policy. So let's just run it down real quick. They removed the Harriet Tubman from the National Archives. So, I mean, Harriet was what? I'm sorry, the Trump administration. I'm going to be very clear.
But they didn't.
I'm sorry, they did, and
You're
because
wrong.
of that, no.
Okay,
I let them speak.
Hold on, real quick, guys. Let him go, and then
Thank you.
We have two segments.
Thank you. They removed it, and then they had to put it back after backlash. The same thing they did with the Tuskegee Airmen. They removed that and had to put that back. Trump is literally trying to dismantle Black America. They literally had an executive order to the Smithsonian that did not want to fund African American Cultural Museum because they feel like that's anti-racism or that's reverse racism. Now, as we sit here, we have to be intellectually honest because you guys are being intellectually dishonest. If you can't sit here and tell us, if you can, everyone's watching on TV. Don't take my word for it.
You've lied.
On TV, you see yourself. listen, I'm reading for myself. All I've heard about the left this, the left this. What about
It's
this?
coming, Mr.
Last
Cole,
time I
it's
checked,
coming.
the Trump administration is the one cutting the Medicaid, cutting Social Security, cutting
I got a
Medicare.
question.
They're the ones that's cutting
You want
education.
answer?
Last time I checked, Joe Biden, you talked about unemployment was the lowest under Donald Trump. My guy, Joe Biden had the lowest unemployment. Like
No,
you guys want to
ain't
forget
black
about
unless
that.
Yeah, this guy is highly emotional, highly only talking points that are not necessarily true. And again, to the degree that this administration may be trying to really do some things that undermine the black presence, I can't deny that. I don't know the true facts of that, but I have seen and heard certain things around that being true. Now, if he is trying to remove these monuments, etc., of black people and those things, then you are being racially biased when it comes to that. That ain't practicing racism. That's not going to lead or stop any individual from becoming what they need to become. That is a removal and trying to hide the facts of history to a certain degree, trying to sanitize history. And the right has an issue with that. A lot of those conservatives who want to try to whitewash history, no pun intended, where they want to erase the evil that the founding fathers engaged in and only want to highlight the greatness that the founding fathers engaged in. Now that is being racially biased and that is hypocritical, and you got to call them clowns out on that. This is the conservative right. But this dude right here is the same emotional black dude that you're going to see over and over again when it comes to that Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, blacks have been loyal to them for about 65 years. And their condition from the 1960s into 2025 collectively, blacks are still at the bottom of every collective social metric. And they have been voting Democrat at about a 95% clip for the last 60 years. So the Democratic Party has done nothing to change the condition of black people. They get up and they holler and they virtue signal all this discuss about how racism is, how the system keeps black people back, how, and they've been in control for the last. They was in control from 2008 to 2016, and the black condition didn't change much. They was in control from 20 to 2024. The black condition collectively remained the same, and the behavior and the actual embracing of a culture that is toxic and negative is what the Democrats allow. They never pointed out. They allow that to exist. And that's what's keeping blacks back the most, which is the culture that we have embraced collectively, a degenerative, depraved culture that only makes individuals mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and eventually physically worse off. The mental and emotional craziness and dysfunction that you see within the black community is, for the most part, in 2025, a function of the values, interests, and principles that many have embraced, and they seek to live that out, and they glorify what is called ratchet behavior, ghetto behavior, vile and vulgar language, etc. And again, it's dudes like this guy right here that will continue to cry. It's the white man's fault. No. Again, there are systems in place that, yes, affect individuals negatively. And do these individuals have racial bias? No doubt about it. Trump, etc., all of them are racially biased. You know what I mean? You and I are likely racially biased. But again, you can't listen to these Democrats whine about how racist Donald Trump is when they voted for a racist individual in Joe Biden, an individual who stood with Strom Thurmond, an individual, I think, who eulogized Byrd, Senator Byrd, an individual who stood with and pushed forth that crime bill that was racially motivated in 1994, that knew that the punishment of those who were selling crack cocaine, and you should be punished, would be 100 times more than those who were selling cocaine. So guess who was at that point the sellers of cocaine and the users of cocaine? Primarily white people. Guess who were the sellers and the users of crack cocaine? Black people. So it put an enormous amount of black men, women in prison for long extended stays because of the racial disparity in sentencing guidelines for a crime that is similar. You can't get crack without the cocaine. All right, so I'm not going to go any further on this. Again, this brother right here, I've heard him before. He reiterates the same thing, and let's tie this in. Again, there are black conservatives that I look at, and again, I'm not a black conservative, even though I voted for Trump, that do, in my opinion, always and only point out what's going on with black people. So they seem to be racially biased themselves against black people. Many of these conservatives that I listen to, and they have some good points, but a lot of their points is always centered around black. I'm talking about the Hodge twins. I'm talking about Officer Tatum. I'm talking about the Cartier family. Many of these individuals that you find online that are black conservatives, they only talk about black people. Not only, but 99% of what they're talking about is centered around the dysfunction of black people and or the dysfunction of the liberal left. You know what I mean? And both sides are dysfunctional. Again, if you like the video, please like, subscribe, hit that bell. Remember my new channel. You want to follow me on my channel. It's a fitness channel. It's called Monte's Fitness. I'll leave the link in the description. On my fitness channel, I cover insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, ways to overcome these things, autoimmune diseases, mineral and vitamin deficiencies, hormonal balances, panic attacks, anxiety, depression, anything that you're dealing with mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, we cover in that wellness channel. We give you solutions. We give you tips on fasting, tips on nutrition, tips on herbs, tips on supplements. Make sure you follow that channel. And again, on that channel, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we actually produce workout videos that you can follow along with. All right. So you have a beautiful day. Sending you peace and always love. Peace.